doesn't do. Okay, sorry. So I will skip this page. So Calcul Quebec has financial partners. So thanks to them, we have workshops. We can provide you user support. So it's a group of multiple universities and also other institutions that are helping us. That's the outline for today. About the Calcul Quebec staff, well, it used to be here in this classroom what we call the Guillimin monthly users meeting, but now we are going to start having Calcul Quebec lunch conferences. And the staff of all sites are now working together in the province of Quebec. Of course, legacy systems like Briary, Mammoth, Helios, and Guillimin will continue to be managed by local sites. But for the next cluster, which is called Béluga, it will be operated by the whole Calcul Quebec. So in Calcul Quebec, we have many scientific directors, also directors of operations. They are doing mostly the management of everything. We have a quite large team of analysts providing support help online through tickets. So when you send us an email, it transforms to a ticket, and we can manage ticket and reply to you guys. And we never forget. Well, the tool is to make sure that we don't forget to help you. So it will pop up some notification whenever we forget you. Training events. So we have now a calendar for this fall for training events. And of course, for the next cluster, system administrators are working together. They are separated in different teams. We have a storage team dedicated to everything about hard drives and tapes. Network team, they are making sure we will have great bandwidth and something that is workable for between universities and Béluga. The scheduler team will work hard on the configuration of Slurm, which will be the same scheduler as on Cedargram and Niagara. And also the monitoring team will make sure that all resources are used properly. And maybe a few other teams as well. Compute Canada news. Well, just to recap on the previous slide, basically we are now a big team in Calcul Quebec, about 40 workers. Compute Canada news. It's a reminder. It has started today. The 2019 RAC contest. So it's RAC means resource allocation competitions. It's a peer-reviewed process, which means professors will submit RAC requests, and other scientific professors will evaluate those requests. So professors will have to justify their science in order to get more resources. If professors believe they don't need as much resources beyond what is already offered by the Rapid Access Service, which is also called RAS, then you may simply use RAS limits and submit jobs with opportunistic access. Next week, put that in your calendar if you have questions about the RAC process. We will have an English session online only on next, I think it's Thursday, from 12 p.m. to 1:50 p.m. Eastern Time. And then on Friday next week, there will be an event, October 5. Is it here in this room?
No, it's in the piano room. It's on a different room, but it'll be on the invite that you get organized through Eventbrite.
Oh, okay.
So it's not that we couldn't get this room.
Okay, so it's a much smaller room over there. So if you have questions, you could register to be physically there, or you may also be online as well. So the French session is if you want to ask questions. Well, you can even ask questions in English. We will be able to reply, to respond to you in English in the French session. So that's about it for RAC. The dates, it opens today. Fast track will start, it is due to October 25th. So if professors are invited to submit a RAC request with fast track, you have up to October 25th to submit your request. This will basically clone the previous request you did in the past years, but your scientific note for your previous request will be reused for the new year. And if they have to cut off at some point, like let's say 2.5 or 3.1, whatever, well, you still have the same note as you had previous years. So if you want to update your scientific justification, you will have to go through the full submission. Anyway, we'll have more details about that next week. RPP and RG, one is for platforms and the other one is for regular HPC resources. You have up to November 8th to submit your request. In Calcul Quebec, yeah.
When will the RPP recording do with your stuff?
I don't have the question was what will be the deadline for the RPP report submission. I don't have this answer for all these questions, so I invite you to either ask your question to rac@calculcanada.ca or to attend the presentation next week. I'm sorry. So next slide, it's a visualization contest. It is called Visualize This. There are 2 data sets this year. One is a scientific data set, so something about physics or chemistry or something like that. And there is another data set made of humanities data. I think it's a bunch of text, and you have to do something to visualize maybe statistics or something about those texts. So I invite you to visit that link. Maybe it's something you can participate and you can get some award at the end, a prize. It looks like the dataset will be available only on October 1st, but you could still start looking at the webpage to see what this is about. Some training news. Our whole calendar at Calcul Quebec is on eventbrite.ca. You have the link on the slide. By the way, we will publish the slides on the Calcul Quebec wiki. If it's not after this afternoon, it will be maybe tomorrow. We have launch conferences that are coming soon. Terraform or Lodatage, which means a batch of tasks. Software carpentry events. There will be one at Laval, Guillimin, and McGill in November or near the end of October. Introduction à Linux or to HPC. So we did on Monday the introduction to HPC on McGill campus, but if you want to have an introduction à Linux in French, there will be one at University Sherbrooke. Premier pas sur les serveurs de calcul, it's like the lesson you should take after introduction at Linux. Open Refine, if you need to clean up your data, it should be a good workshop for people managing lots of data. Past events are here, so it's on this page that I will publish today's slides. And we got a bunch of webinars that are recorded on YouTube. Some are in Calcul Quebec channel and some in Calcul Canada.
Just to go back to the RPP question.
Yeah.
Reports, from what our colleagues online were saying, the reports will start being accepted end of November, but the deadline is January 10th. So you may want to repeat that.
Okay, so to submit the RPP report,
reports.
People should submit their RPP report.
Well, they will be able to do it at the end of November until January 10th.
So it will be between the end of November and January 10th. So if you need to submit your RPP report, it's between those, in that period. Okay, about software updates, we don't have any specific package to present, but we want to point out that on all legacy systems on Calcul Quebec, you have access to the Compute Canada software stack. So you have all the source commands on legacy systems, except MP2B, which was completely reformatted to become like a Compute Canada system. So it has by default the Compute Canada software stack. But on Briare, Guillimin, and Ilias, you have different ways to activate Compute Canada modules. So let's go to the special topic. Oh, okay. Latest news about Beluga. So we are still working on it. We are currently building the tape library. Actually, vendors are doing it for us. And then we are soon going to work on the disk storage system. So it's under construction. Coming soon, compute nodes. We will have x86 compute nodes with GPU nodes as well. I cannot talk too much about the specifications, but for people here and also online, if you have access to CCDB, you may check in the resources section and you will have a hint of what this is about. We have smaller RAM nodes, medium RAM nodes, and you will see the rest on CCDB. The expected opening date for user access, it's now in early 2019, so most likely in early January. It may be open to users earlier. That depends on how is it going to configure everything like storage, scheduler, and login nodes, as well as compute nodes. So there's a new cluster. That means you will have, guys, to migrate your data. And what should be the approximate schedule for that? I will talk a bit about Briary because people on Briary will also have to migrate soon to Béluga or any other site in Compute Canada. We suggest that they start migrating their data in early January next year to, let's say, the end of RAC 2018. So that's March 31st, 2019. That depends. The official detailed schedule is not fixed yet, so please look at your emails to get the exact news for Briary system. As I said, you may already start migrating some data to other national systems. And, well, once Beluga will be available, you can use Globus to transfer lots of data, or even rsync if you prefer, or any other tool. I don't think BBCP is installed, so I will not talk too much about it. Now, the big question for Guillimin is what's going to happen? How are we going to decommission the system? First of all, I have to announce now we will have a 3-day downtime in October or maybe early November. In the server room, we will need to make space for Beluga's compute node. And to be able to do that, we have to shrink the size of Guillimin. We have to shrink it to the point where all remaining compute nodes will be reserved nodes for contributed hardware. So if your professor didn't buy any resource, what you will get in the end is only a short access of maximum 12 hours per job. But for people having a reservation and for people who paid for some access to Guillimin, you will have like a better access with jobs longer than 12 hours. The GS storage system will remain there for now because the data migration will be done by you guys. So once Beluga will be available, and we expect it should be there in early January or sooner, you will have to start migrating your files from your project space, home directory, even scratch space if you want, to Beluga. And just a note here, the very end of /GS is the end of February. So after that, there's no GS. No, it's not possible to retrieve data, it's down. We shut down GS and it's gone. So you will have at least 2 months to transfer your data from Guillimin to Beluga. Now let's split a bit all the steps you need to do when you want to migrate your data, because there are things to do. The first step is to check your storage usage. If you are on Briary, I invite you to contact the support team to let you know the exact amount of terabytes and file counts you have on Briary. Yeah?
Can I just save some time for them and say there's a command that one word disk usage? that gives you a full report for, I don't know about number of files, but certainly space used per group and per user.
We may work on that, but actually there is no command like that on Briary, and I have been told that I have to ask the system administrator to extract the stats from, I think they have GPFS over there, but it's not configured like on Guillimin. Guillimin, we have...
I use it once a week. There's a command disk usage somewhere that the system told me about. But
really?
It's a thing qui a fait it's a thing that we put together himself. But
okay, so apparently there is a...
every day they were kind of refresh information. This is a quick,
okay.
Quick command.
So I have been told wrong.
How many files, but for sure total space usage is there, like by file system.
Okay, so one user in the classroom told me that there is a disk. Is it underscore usage?
One word, disk usage, no space.
Disk usage, no space should be the command to check the storage usage on Briary. Thanks.
Yep.
On Guillimin, well, this one we know a bit more. If you want to check your storage space in home directory and Scratch, it's the myquota command. If you want to get details about your disk usage in project spaces, you have to use the PR quota space -a or -a. This will show you the total usage in the project space and also the detail for each user in the project space. So that way you know which one have used too many space or has too many files in project space. Keep in mind, the disk usage on Briary is cached like you told me daily. On Guillimin, it's about the PR quota and myquota commands will show you information that are updated every 30 minutes. But if you really want to have a real-time value on Guillimin, you may use both commands df-h with the path of your project space or df-hi with the same path. The first one will give you the amount of data, and the second one will give you the number of files. Why we are telling you this? You may already know what's going on Cedargram and Niagara. You are limited in the number of terabytes by default, and also in the number of files. So it was quite free on Guillimin. We raised the number of files a lot, and it could be the same also on Briary and other legacy systems. But now we have more strict rules in Compute Canada, and this will be applied as well on Béluga. So depending on which system, the minimum I have seen for home is 50 gigabytes with 500,000 files. That's because we expect you to store lots of source code, and in source code we understand that they could be like 1 kilobyte per file in average. That's fine. But for project space, we expect you to store large files like data sets. Or if you have lots of small files, we expect you to store archive files, so to pack files together in larger files. So this is why we have this limit. And that's the default you get when you have access to those national systems. You may have also a much larger space on Scratch, at least 20 terabytes. For example, on Graham, you may have 100 terabytes, but keep in mind that's temporary space. So it can stay there for up to 60 days, and after that, it will be deleted. Also on Scratch, on new systems, there's no backup, but for the first time, home directory and project spaces will be on backup. I mean, for the first time in Quebec, that means on Béluga. So both will be on backup systems. So this is why it's kind of more limited. For professors that will use the rapid access service, they may send us a request to increase their project space up to 10 terabytes. So they only have to send us an email, please give me 10 terabytes, and we will give it to you 10 terabytes. But if you need more space, or if you know that you cannot go below some amount of files, let's say 1 million files, then you will have to justify why. And if it's too much, if it's still too much, you will have to go through the RAC contest, so the request for allocation that is happening now. So if your professor knows already that it will need. One example, you have 100 terabytes of data on Guillimin, and you absolutely need that 100 terabytes, you better submit a rack request if you want to keep it. And then we will see if we can accommodate in the meantime during the migration. So once you know how many files and how big they are in your project space, then we ask you to first delete what's not necessary, because you don't want to transfer files that you don't need. And this will increase the bandwidth, and it will reduce the number of files to transfer. One thing, if you're about to delete a folder, we recommend to rename it to some very explicit name so you won't delete something you don't want. So once it's renamed, verify that the content of the to delete folder is really what you want to delete. And then start by typing rm to delete, and only at the end type -rf, and then kind of very safe doing that. But be careful, because on Guillimin project space, there's no backup at the moment. Once you have identified files to delete, you must also use other tools to detect duplicates. Over the years, maybe different students have copied the same files everywhere and extracted the same tarballs, the same data sets. So if you want to delete whatever copies there are on your project space, you may use a tool called fdupes. I have an example of how to identify files over here. So this one will tell you which files are identical at different locations in your project space. So it's a tool we have installed this morning. And -R stands for recursive, and capital S stands for size. So it's going to tell you for every file that are identical in different folders, what is the size of this file. So if some file is like 2 kilobytes, maybe you could keep it there, but if it's multiple gigabytes, you may want to delete them, or the multiple copies and keep only one copy. The fdupes command can do hard links, but I do not recommend it, because once you migrate to Beluga, it will still create 2 copies. You may want to use instead symbolic links. There is an option to generate symbolic links if you want, or you may do things manually if you want as well. Look also for intermediate results or temporary files. So once you compute things in project space, maybe you can get rid of intermediate results. That depends, because for some of you, intermediate results are very important, and you would need compute time to regenerate those. So it's up to you to determine what's important and what you need to keep. For high file count, suppose you look again, you have done all your cleanup, and you're still above 100,000 files. Then you should use tar to group small files together, or even if it's not small, a group of small files, use tar to group files together. So there's one example here. If you want to delete the original, again, create a to delete folder, move everything in there, check that you're not moving also the tar file itself, and then you're ready to delete, or you may not delete at all if you want. All you want to do is to migrate to Beluga. So once you have migrated your tar file, you're good. If you want to accelerate the transfer, maybe it's possible to compress the tar file with either gzip or xzip. If you have large files that contains data, very repetitive, well, how can I say? The data repeats itself a lot in the same file, then you can use commands to compress your large files and expect to have smaller files to transfer to Beluga. Oh, very important point over here. In the past, we asked, I need to read something. Last year, when we asked people to move to Cedar and Graham, they had to move hundreds of terabytes of data from Guillimin or Briare or whatever to Cedar and Graham. And the problem they got, they tried to transfer files, but they didn't have read access to the original copy on legacy systems in Calcul Quebec. So before you start any Globus or any rsync, make sure you have read access and access to everything you're about to copy to Cedar and Graham, because otherwise what will happen, especially in Globus, the transfer will hang for 3 days and then you will receive an error message. So if you don't want to lose time, make sure you have read access everywhere. And maybe also try to coordinate with your teammates to not create new files in the meantime, because otherwise you may lose access to new files you have not seen it before. So it's up to you guys to manage the transfer. What else? If you still don't have a Globus ID account, please create one. It's also possible to authenticate with Compute Canada credentials, but personally I have started with a Globus ID one, and then I have configured my profile, and then I have imported my Compute Canada account in there. So that's one thing. So now that you're ready to transfer, you have done your cleanup, you made sure that you have read access everywhere. Now you can use whatever tool you want. One way of doing things, suppose you're working live on the system. You may start doing a first copy that will transfer most of the files. And then at some point, you tell to your team, okay, now we stop working on Briare and Guillimin, and then you do a final synchronization only to transfer the remaining modifications. So that's one way of doing it. Or you may simply decide, okay, no, let's stop working on those old systems. Let's migrate, and then we're done. You decide. If you want to use rsync, here is an example. Of course, it has to go through an SSH tunnel. So this is why you have the -ESSH. I have chosen a few options over there. Yep.
I have a proposal, and I try to do this. I have the solution, but it's like I'm working twice or more. So the rsync protocol needs for the new Compute Canada book-based security controls. You cannot really transfer directly with rsync into the user. So because your default user is not necessarily the one that owns the file. So SSH, rsync, there is a version of rsync that has to be new that allows for changing the GID and
right.
user ID. So, but the versions that are actually installed on Graham, we're not having that. So if you can update the rsync and SSH to their latest versions that allow for this dynamic change of the user ID before writing the data.
Yes.
Please send the support tickets.
Okay.
That way we won't forget about it.
I,
It should be easy to do to update our sync. It's just the general utility. It doesn't take long to update it.
It's just rsync to the latest version.
Yeah. That's easy.
so in the
It's updated
classroom,
everywhere. That way, this is
Yes.
put it in the software stack, and that way, Graham, Cedar, everywhere sees it at once.
so in the classroom, there was a comment about rsync on national systems. The problem is the current version of rsync. When you try to copy data to a project space on Cedar, Graham, Niagara, and we'll see on Béluga, it will use the default group as the group of the new files, and that's causing quota issues. So you need to dynamically change the group, the default group of the data that will be copied on national systems. And that can potentially be done with a newer version of rsync, and we will check if we can update it. And it should be on the Compute Canada software stack. So thanks for the comment. So basically now be careful with rsync and make sure that if you want to copy anything, use all the options to convert the default group. And if you don't want to think about that too much, another trick is to copy directly to the scratch space. And once in the scratch space, then you can change all the groups, and then you move to project space. that's another way of doing it.
Maxime also was just saying online, there's also minus no G and minus no P options in the current rsync. But what Bart said, oh, just give us a ticket and then we can have the software inform you.
So minus no
Dash G and minus no dash P.
minus no dash G and minus no dash P in order to make it work right now.
Yeah.
Sure, we don't need to
Okay.
memorize that.
Exactly. There's a link, but I think you give a link after on the next page as well.
Probably.
Are
So,
you referring to some other options that are than those?
No, I was doing exactly what our colleague said. I mean, transferring to scratch, changing the right
Okay.
to scratch, and then rsyncing back to the
Yeah.
project space. But rsync has a set GID or set
Okay.
UID,
Yeah.
and then you specify what the user is to be the same as one of the definition system. And then rsync does change, basically changes the rights, the ownership of the file before writing them to this. This is the thing that it does. Then there is no problem. You can directly write.
May have to need special privileges, so
No,
I'll
because
figure it out.
it kind of it's the moment when they check the.
Yeah.
They have this option. It's the moment when it's still secure. Because you're not transferring to another someone else's
Okay.
account. You're transferring to yours. But instead of checking the rights after, they check it before writing.
makes sense. I think Globus is not affected by that problem. So I will talk a bit about Globus. It's an online tool. Once you're connected to your Globus environment, by default you have this screen, and on the left panel you select one endpoint. It could be Guillimin, it could be Briare, or it could even be your laptop if you have configured Globus Personal in your laptop. And on the right you select another endpoint. And once you select a file or a folder, let's say on the left panel, this button, the right arrow, one button will become blue, and it will allow you to transfer your files. So this one you can try to transfer directly to your project space. It should keep the DEF hyphen username, the project group ID on the remote system. And that way, this tool is really designed to transfer lots of terabytes and thousands of files. Once the transfer is done, you receive an email which gives you access to some transfer reports, so you could see what happened. Options you can enable. You have sync only, transfer new or changed files. So earlier I told you may start with a first copy and then you may synchronize. If you want to synchronize, you may want to check the first box. The second option, which is quite dangerous, delete files on destination that do not exist on source. For migration, I do not recommend the second option because all you want to have is a copy on Béluga. That's all you need. You don't need to clean up. On Guillimin, we will simply destroy hard drives and that will be it. I think it would be something similar for Briare. It's not like previous years where you had to make space on Guillimin, for instance, but you don't need the second option. Third option, preserve source file modification times. That could be useful. Fourth option, verify the file integrity after transfer. So that tool is able to guarantee you that the transfer has succeeded and all bits have been transferred properly. And the last option, encrypt transfer. By default, it's going to transfer files as fast as it can, but by enabling encryption, it may slow the transfer a bit. But if it's very important for you to keep all the data, well, unreadable on the network, you may check the last option. So if you're not sure about rsync, I invite you to use Globus instead. Documentation about migration on the Compute Canada wiki. You have the main link on top, and within that page you have multiple links, but I have chosen two other links. recommendations for migrations to new systems and also transferring data. So those are 2 pages you can find in the Compute Canada wiki. That's the end of my presentation today. If you have any question, we can respond now, or you can also submit a question to support@calculquebec.ca. So thank you for coming. Question, yeah.
Yeah, so my question is about tape archive.
Yes.
I don't know if Guillimin has a tape archive system also.
We have some tape archive system, but I think we are.
That's going to be migrated to the new tape system.
Like one-to-one, we're just gonna.
So that will be
Not
migrated
one-to-one,
to
we're
the
gonna
new system.
temporarily, because the archives are typically been allocated to rack.
Yeah.
So those will be carried over, but those will then also be moderated together with PI to say, look, if you want to keep an equivalent of form of archive, you need to select it as part of your rack request. So we will take care of that migration for the archive, because we do 2 types of things. And the archive is very similar to what we now newly call Nearline. We call it archive in the Guillimin days. It's now Nearline. That we're going to be taking care of directly. So that is the one that's, I think, going to be more out of the hand. Okay, we're doing that for other reasons.
Okay. Nearline as opposed to like long-term.
No, why we are not at this position able to offer long-term storage, and say long-term beyond 5 years. We get our funding cycles for a 5-year period. So it's always contingent upon the renewal of our operating funding, even though we certainly have hopes for a longer lifetime than just each 5-year cycle, now that we have concentration to the national systems, which are fewer than the many that were there before.
And just so I'm clear, the actual process of transferring data, like assuming you get approved for the space, the data is still in the user's hand?
For disk-based data, yes. It's in the user's hands. Tape-based, we're using the same software environment for managing that data. Where the tape is something that we're going to.
Okay, so for people online, the tape archive that was on Guillimin, the content will be migrated to the Béluga tape system.
The BRA is a different case that has to be discussed with the BRA events, because how that is managed is different necessarily than.
And it will be a different case for BRA. Any other question? I don't know if I can finally. Have to be careful.
From what I've been told, there's been no questions online.
Any question online?
No questions online, at least been textually typed.
Okay, I think we're good. So I will stop sharing the screen. So that was it. So thank you for people online, and thank you for people on site here.
Right,
See you next time.
The slides and the session, I think, will be available online for people afterwards for review, so it's not that you have to take crazy notes or anything.
Right.